All right, welcome to Techtical. I know I was promising a build vlog, and that's exactly what I'm going to deliver. No more videos in between this time. I'm jumping right into my next one because it's great, and I'm going to share it with you, and I think you're going to be amazed. So stay the fuck tuned. Okay, before we begin, I want to preface this by saying, one, I'm sick, and two, I did some poking around. I looked around other videos that are very similar to the ones I make, and I was a little disheartened, and I was a little put off by a lot of what they had to do. Now, I'm not going to name names. I don't want to start shit. I'm sure these people are very nice people, but one thing you will never see me do on this channel is lead you towards parts that I think would be potentially detrimental to the overall build or outright dangerous. Some people have taken it upon themselves to risk builds for the sake of cheapness on shitty power supplies. They build builds with insufficiently sized hard drives that will technically get you by for like a game or two, but then be completely filled. Or they'll do things like, take cases out of the scrapyard that are literally missing a side panel and are broken in half. My systems are intended for resale. I resell them at a markup, and usually I put that profit towards a charitable donation of some kind. So I cannot afford to do that. My systems are meant to be complete desktop systems that you would be proud to display in your home. And mine are still fucking cheaper than anyone else's and perform better. Just shove it up your ass, whoever the fuck you are that I won't mention because I don't want to start shit. Anyway, you guys know how this works. So, part list. And it's tomorrow because I took some NyQuil and I couldn't finish filming last night. First up, I found myself a P5K Premium motherboard with a Q9550 in it, 8 gigabytes of RAM spread across 4 2GB modules clocked at 800 megahertz, and a 750 gigabyte Dell OEM hard drive. I was going on a trip, happens to be in a suburb of Toronto we were headed to that day anyhow, and I thought to myself, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll just have a look on the local Kijiji out there and see what these people are selling. Maybe I take an hour out. We don't really have anything planned, so go pick up something and see if I can get myself a good deal. The nice thing about littler towns, smaller towns, is that there's a much smaller buyer market, so that if you happen to be from a big city and you swoop in with a bunch of cash, you can pick up some stuff for a lot cheaper than you would in the city where there's a lot of competition. And that's exactly what I fucking did, because I got all that shit for $60. $60 is what you kind of normally have to pay for an 8 gigabyte kit of DDR2 RAM these days, because lots of people still want it, and it's increasingly scarce as time goes on. Step 2, needed a graphics card. Now, I had a performance level in mind, and there's only so much you can really pair with a Q9550 before you start encountering some serious bottlenecking and wasting a lot of that GPU horsepower. The cards I had in mind were sort of like in the 40 nanometer era. GTX 480, 570, 580 would have even been fine, but nothing too powerful. I settled on a GTX 570 from Gigabyte that I saw a guy posting for $100 originally, and it sat for about 2 weeks, and he lowered it to 60 and reposted it. And that's when I kind of got the feeling that he was getting just desperate to dump it off, so I made him a $40 offer, and I got it. $40 for a GTX 570 is a fantastic deal. It performs roughly as well as an R7 260X or a GTX 750 Ti, and I was more than happy to get it. Now I needed a case and the power supply. So on my way home from work one day, I happened to notice a new ad pop up on Kijiji for a guy who was selling an Antec Sonata III, which is a very popular old case, with the Antec Earthwatts 500 watt power supply still inside of it. Looked to be in good shape, working power supply, and I thought, what better case to use than a case from the very era of PC that I was building from. Walked over to his place, which happened to be like 3 blocks from where I worked, picked it up and carted it home. For $40, which I forgot to mention during filming. Now, one last variable I want to mention is that I added a Hyper 212 Evo because I figure this is a good candidate for some overclocking. I had salvaged it from an old teardown I did and kept it. It was heatsink and mounting hardware only. The fan was totally fucked. But I had a couple of the mounting brackets, so I just slapped a BitPhoenix fan on it and called it a day. Now, I usually pay about 15 to 20 bucks for Hyper 212 Evos, and technically that would be something that you would have to do if you were taking the same approach. So in fairness, I think we're going to add that cost to this build to bring the total hardware cost to $155, which is incredibly cheap. It's like yo mom and a half. So this is going to be the birth actually of a new style of build that I'm going to be doing. This is going to be different from the ones I did previously because it's kind of in a different performance tier. It's like a solid step below. We're going to measure it as such. We're going to drop down a lot of our benchmarked games to lower settings, see how it performs, and we'll be back in a little bit to chat a bit about the results. All right, let's get into some benchmarks now. You got your BioShock Infinite set on high at 1080p, giving you an average of 61 FPS and a minimum of 27. Not bad, considering it's an older game. Tomb Raider 2013 on Ultra, surprisingly, at 1080p, 59 FPS average with a 48 minimum. Really, really impressive there. Thief, also a Square Enix game. Stupid as fuck. I don't understand how this happened. I put it on very low at 1080p and I could only muster a 36 FPS average with a 23 minimum. That is ridiculous. Why does fucking Tomb Raider perform like twice as goddamn good as Thief? That's probably why the game sucks, is because it ran like shit. Anyway, Shadow of Mordor on low at 1080p gives us a 72 frames per second average with a 55 minimum. Really, really good performance there. And low doesn't look too fucking bad on Shadow of Mordor, let me tell you. Synthetic Benchmark Unigine Heaven on low at 1080p give us an average of 50. I don't know why I keep including the minimums here at 9 FPS. It's as a result of scene changes that it gets that low. Don't read into it too much. And YouPorn HD Double Anal at 1080p gave me a maximum of 60 FPS and an average of 60 FPS because I pay for premium. Why not? All right, there you have it, folks. No music over the benchmarks this time around because, well, I didn't have time to write anything. I'm thinking of recording a track or two. I got a guitar here with a USB connection, so just putting together a little something. But in the meantime, if you have music that you want to promote and get out there, I'll give you a fucking mention. I'll give you a link to your iTunes. I'll give you a shout out. I'll give you a blowjob. So send me a private message on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter or on Reddit. You know the username, same everywhere, and let me know. As for the actual system itself, I think we have a genuine little badass on our hands. I don't think you can do a hell of a lot better for $155 Canadian, $195 with Windows included. So that's it for now. I just got back from a little trip, which is why my shirt's different again. Well, let's see, about 25 SSDs. That'll be in my next part vlog, which is coming up next, I believe. And until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.